Hi guys, welcome back. So all the teams are out for this weekend's very exciting internationals. I'm going to go through all the teams. This video is sponsored by Manual Men's Healthcare Company. Now let's have a look at the England team. Now some news before the game. Charlie Ewels is out of the tour with a knee injury. Only 1% of you voted for him in the team, but we never wish anyone ill, so I hope he recovers quickly. The front row is definitely England's best front row available, for sure. It's the front row you guys voted for, and it edges Australia on experience, definitely. Genge, really looking forward to him playing, getting stuck in. I think he's a great player in good form. Jamie George looks relaxed and confident. He and the Vunipola brothers have been dropped recently. They've got quite a lot to prove, I think, a bit more fire than normal. So I think that could help England. Will Stewart is obviously the question mark. He needs to stand up well in his battle with Angus Bell. I just want him to be nice and solid, do his job, and let the others do anything flashy. Second row, again, I think it's England's best second row pairing. You could say that, Courtney Lawes is England's second best second row, but he plays six pretty much exclusively now. He can step up to second row. We need Johnny Hill to step up, for sure. He was looking going that way after the Lions tour, had a bit of a breakthrough injury. He's big, he's physical, and I think that's what he needs to do. Like Stewart, keep it nice and simple, let the others play around him. Courtney Lawes is the captain. Well reported that Owen Farrell was pretty upset not being the captain, as you'd expect, which is fine. Courtney Lawes will just lead by example, and he's a 100% starter for sure, and I think that kind of says as well, we may see Farrell switched around a bit more, subbed in and out as well. Lawes is a starter, and I think he'll play for as long as possible. He's in great form, he's got the experience, happy with that. At open side, hooray, Tom Curry gets to play his favourite position. He's up against quite a few other sevens. Obviously, Underhill misses out, and talking about going up against other sevens, he's against Michael Hooper, possibly the best seven around at the moment, so can't wait for that battle. At number 8, well, I'm pretty sure Eddie Jones wanted it to be Alex Dombrandt. He's out of the tour, of course, and Billy comes straight in with a lot to prove, ending his international exile, and he'll want to, show he can still do it on the big stage. He is match fit, so he's got as good a chance as any. He's 29, he's not over the hill. And like I said, him, his brother, Jamie George, I think they're going to try and prove a point. Proving a point will be Danny Kerr, hopefully, starting with his halfback partner for Harlequins, Marcus Smith. It's a good call. They know each other's games. We know England are trying to learn this new system that we haven't seen click yet. Kerr and Smith has got as good a chance as anyone. Smith and Quade Cooper, what a great pairing there. Both experts at holding up the ball, manipulating defences. It's going to be a great watch. The centres, they're a bit light for sure, but they've got plenty of skill. Farrell, was probably always going to play 12, although we see Porter on the bench, and I wonder if he's going to replace Farrell at some point. I know Porter can play 13 as well. But if England are going to get this attacking system going, then Smith and Farrell, they've got a good chance of doing that with their skills. If they get enough ball, if they're defending a lot, it's going to be a tough evening, I think, for sure, against Karevi. That's going to be tough. The back three is interesting. There is balance in a way. We have size and we have jinkiness, we have high ball, we have kicking, but we don't have speed. And even though they're all good players in their own rights, I think it's probably the slowest back three we're going to see this weekend internationally. Big Joe, it's a big game for him. He needs to show on this tour he can stay fit, number one. And number two, his defence and skills are up to it, because there's still plenty of questions. But I do like the way they used him against the Barbarians in and around the ruck. And I think they're going to use Noel the same, making up for their lack of runners in the centres, their power in the centres. But they're going to have to be on their game out wide, because, they're not the fleetest of foot speed-wise. They could get caught out around the edges. Joe Marchant's going to have a job getting his drift on quite early, getting those wingers out and giving them a chance. Stewart, I expect to play probably the full 80, to be honest, and it looks like Arundel is covering fullback, but more about him in a minute. Onto the bench, we see Luke Cowan-Dickie, which we were pretty sure was going to happen anyway. Mako Vunipola as well, lots of experience there coming on. Who hasn't got experience is Joe Hayes, so that's going to be an interesting one. Him coming on, if Stewart is struggling, Hayes is going to have to come on and try and right the ship, and he hasn't got a lot of experience, so huge game for him. Another youngster, Ollie Chesham. The good news is he's had a full season playing for Leicester, and it's a season he's had to graft. Yes, they've won, but they've had to fight for it. He's not at his prime, of course, physically. It's going to take a few years, but many of you guys wanted him on the bench as well. He's a definite talent, so great for him. The battle for the back row replacement is won by Lewis Ludlam, and I think that makes sense. I actually had him in my starting team, but he can fill all the back row slots as well. Like I said, Underhill probably the biggest one to miss out there. Jack Willis as well. And the 3 backs on the bench, instead of Randall as a replacement 9, it's Jack van Poortvliet. That's very interesting. It looks like he's jumped Randall in the pecking order. Or maybe they want some skills that Van Poortvliet has. He's a bit bigger, he's a bit stronger. I think his kicking game's a bit stronger as well. If you're looking for just lifting ruck speed, then yeah, Randall's your obvious choice. But that's interesting. Does he think he's just a bit better player, or does he want the different skill set? But I've been going on that he's a really good international quality 9 in the making. So I'm pleased about that. Porter, we mentioned already. And then the other interesting one is Henry Arundel. Now, no doubt I wanted him there, although he was down as this apprentice role, which I was assuming means he doesn't play. Now, obviously this apprentice tag is a bit of rubbish. You might as well just have him as a player. Maybe it's just to keep the media away from him for a bit, but he's an apprentice, but he's playing, so whatever that means, no idea. But he is the sort of back England are missing with that out-and-out pace, probably covering the wing and full-back, although Porter can cover wing as well. Now, a new thing I'm trying for this game is a live stream. Haven't done one before. Should be good fun. If you want to get involved in the live comments, you need to be a subscriber. It will start about 10 minutes before, so do sign up to the notification for that. I'll put a link below as well. I'd love to see you there for the live watch long. That would be great. I'm expanding the channel a bit, going to England games and stuff like that. So this video is sponsored by Manual Men's Healthcare. Now, I've been studying and working in health and fitness all my life, and I know there's a gap in the market for men's healthcare. It's not represented well. And one thing that can creep up on you when you finish playing rugby especially is body fat. You can put on weight without really knowing it, and after a while it becomes a problem. Now, what Manual offer is a weight loss program. They offer an holistic approach. They look at all aspects, including lifestyle, sleep, stress, all these sorts of things. It's all online. It's all very easy. You fill in a questionnaire to see if they recommend the program or not. They won't recommend it if they don't think you need it. And also you meet with a coach, devise the program, and then you meet with them every 2 weeks to check you're doing okay, to give you tips. There's plenty of support there. It's very simple, it's very effective, and if you want to have a go, it's 50% off if you use the discount code ANALYST50, and if you don't lose 10% of your body weight in 180 days, you get your money back. So all the codes and links are in the description below. Now on to this Australian team, the Wallabies to face England at home. And they look strong, and I think strong is the word. When they played England last time, under Checker, they were throwing the ball around everywhere. This pack looks a bit more lumpy, a bit more like they're going to take England head on. It'll be interesting if they play a bit more kicking as well. The backs obviously are set up to run nicely, but it does look like this pack is very in your face. And it also looks like a Dave Rennie side. There's quite a few players between the 0-25 cap range that have come through under him as head coach. So not a huge amount of experience in the front row. Angus Bell there on 16 tests. David Parecki with no caps. A debutant there. 29 though. Both debutants are a little bit older, which may help them with nerves, for example, hitting the ground running. Let me know what you think. We've got Alatoa there, who's over 50 caps though, making up a bit of experience. The Brumbies captain. He's a really good international operator. Then 2 big guys in the second row. Swain on 10 caps, now a key man for Rennie, running the line out. And then the other debutant, Neville. Now he's got a really interesting backstory. He's 33 already, ex-rower, ex-rugby league, big lad, hard lad. Definitely one for the World Cup, probably not beyond. Back row again looks very strong. Rob Liotta there, the trio of Liotta, Valentini, and you also got Samu on the bench as well. Guys packing big punch, lots of carrying, really probably letting Michael Hooper just do whatever he wants, which is such a good idea because he is pure class. Talking of class, halfbacks, loads of experience. White is such a classy operator, international level. He'll push the Wallabies around wherever he needs them to go. He can execute a game plan. He can kick, he can tackle. Loads of chat. Like him a lot. Quade Cooper, we know, has really improved his all-round game. If he needs to play a kicking game, we will see that. If he needs to play a running game, he's obviously got that in the bag as well. Lovely passes, delayed passes, all of that. An area where the Wallabies trump England is the power in the midfield, for sure. Karevi and Iki Tau, both powerful in their own rights, especially Karevi coming back from Japan. Those 3 guys coming back from Japan, such a boost for Australia. You know, if they get good ball, they're going to run at that, especially that Smith-Farrell axis a lot. And then out wide, we've got Korobetti, again coming back from Japan, so that's really good to give England a headache. He's got a lot of tries for Australia already. An up-and-coming star is Kellaway. We've seen him already for Australia. Really, really talented. Tom Banks, I had a few reservations about him last time I saw him, so I'm interested to see how he goes this time. Then the bench there, as you see, Jake Gordon, a fairly young scrum half as well. Lolasio is covering 10 over James O'Connor. They said he wasn't sharp enough, but I think that's the right call anyway. So let me know what you think of the Wallabies team. Now on to the massive clash between New Zealand and Ireland. Let's look at this Irish team. Now there have been a few injuries. It looked like Healy was going to be out, maybe even out of the tour, but he's pushed through his knock, his twist, whatever it was. He's on the bench, so that's good news for Ireland, although they'll probably want Andrew Porter to play a fair few minutes, maybe more than normal. Young Dan Sheehan, just a huge game for him with Kelleher out. He's their starter now. Furlong, he'll be pumped up. He loves it anyway. For this game, he's going to be getting his hands on the ball. He's really going to be working hard. It's going to be fireworks. Second row, we see Henderson out, which is a massive shame for Ireland. He would have been in the 23 somewhere. Many of you guys saying in the comments he's been playing really well. He'd be a starting second row for sure. So they've moved Tyg Byrne up there to partner James Ryan. How are they going to go against the very experienced Whitelock and Retallick? Big ask there. Then a huge call in the back row. Many of you guys said Conan wasn't playing the best this season, and maybe Farrell agrees. He's on the bench. But I think I'd have slotted Coombs into number 8 and kept Doris at 6, but he's playing Doris at 8 and bringing in the experience of Peter Amani into that 6 role, plus obviously his line-out work. So tell me if you think that's the right call. I'm just not quite sure. Obviously Gibson Park and Sexton 9 and 10, not a lot to say there. Really experienced, they know how Ireland work. If they can get that good quick phase ball, those two pull the strings fine. I went for Henshaw instead of Aki at 12, and Aki starting against Maori, of course, made him less likely to start in this game, although he played well enough to make the bench, so it's Henshaw and Ringrose. Then the back three, as I picked, in fact, the entire back line is as I picked in my selection video. James Lowe was a definite, a real danger man. Keith Earls, his experience, he's starting on the other wing. And Hugo Keenan has no pressure really on him. O'Brien started against New Zealand Maori, but didn't look the greatest. Some of his kicking wasn't particularly good, I thought. So he was an obvious pick at 15. Then we've got Heffernan covering hooker. Beelum, who could cover both sides of the scrum, but they're hoping Healy's going to come through. Treadwell is given a chance by that injury to Henderson, because if Henderson was starting, then everyone would probably jump down. Conan we mentioned, Murray's experience to come on. Carberry coming on, covering 10, maybe 15, but I still think he's got a lot to prove as an international 10 for Ireland. I think Frawley looked okay, actually, on Wednesday. I think he might put Carberry's spot under pressure if he doesn't perform. Then Bundyaki backing up the game on Wednesday to sit on the bench as well. So let me know if you think this team is good enough to beat New Zealand. I think it's as good as they could put out, but certainly those injuries aren't helping them. Now the All Blacks, they're 23 to face Ireland. The front row is the front row I'd picked, although many of you guys said in the comments you would have had a Laulala there as well. You would have had a Takiaho starting at hooker. Taylor you weren't sure about, so let me know if you think it's not the strongest team. I think there's definitely a few controversial calls in here, and I think some New Zealand fans actually won't be too happy. You've obviously got the experience of Retallick and Whitelock in the second row. Are they quite as good as they used to be? I don't know, but they've got unbelievable experience. They're going to be pumped, so I expect them to be very good. Then the big call at 6. They've really got a second row at 6. I know Scott Barrett has played number 6 before, and he's a good player. But is this a bit of a way of saying, right, we're going to take Ireland on up front. We think if we beat them up front, we win the game. Plus, maybe it's a little bit of a panic that they think they need extra line-out options. I don't know. If you think he's the right man, the best man, let me know. If you think it's a little bit of a panic, let me know. No Akira Ioane anywhere in the 23, so that's a big loss for him. Kane was always going to start at 7. Papali'i's on the bench, probably covering 7, maybe other positions as well. But if he comes on and does really, really well, will he put pressure on Sam Cane? I don't know. He's named captain, so he was always going to play. Maybe it's Ardi Sevilla that moves around. If someone comes on, maybe Suakula comes on and Ardi Sevilla moves somewhere else. That could be interesting to see how they jig up that back row. But do you think it's the right way round? I think the guys on the bench are super exciting, back row-wise. Over 100 caps for both the halfbacks. Smith and Barrett are their best 9 and 10. I know, of course, that on the bench there, Richie Mwanga is putting pressure on Barrett, but I think Barrett's been the best this season. Super exciting. 12 is interesting. So Havili, Goodhue are isolating. Would Havili have started? I don't know. I think he'd have been in the 23. I obviously know Sheck was a long shot anyway. So Tapia stays at 12. He's played a bit for Foster at 12 already. Rico Ioane was always going to play 13, a serious danger man, and loads of danger on the wings. I think Clark's got a slight injury anyway, but would Finganuku started over him? I don't know. It's his debut. He's very powerful. That's going to excite All Blacks fans. And Sevu Reece on the other wing is just a fantastic finisher. So good balance there on the wings. Plus you've got the height, the kicking of Geordie Barrett. And with no Will Jordan, that made his selection, a certainty, but no Will Jordan is a massive loss. Alongside Beauden Barrett, I think he's the most talented back they have. And we've mentioned most of the bench already. Finley Christie coming on at 9. And Aynor, who was a late call-up, comes straight into 23. So, a bit of a turnaround for him. We move on. My goodness, there's a load of great games on this weekend. Springboks versus Wales. Fantastic stuff with Wales as the underdogs. But they've been talking a good game, being confident, which is what they should do, of course. The front row of Thomas, Elias and Lewis, I think they're pretty solid. I think they're pretty good scrummagers, but up against the 6 South African front rowers, their best front rowers available, it's just going to be such a tough day. Again, Rowland and Beard are good second rows, but against Etzebeth and De Jager, I think they're just a little bit outclassed in that front 5. They just need to hold their own in that set piece to give themselves a chance. The big news there is Alan Wynne-Jones isn't starting, and a lot of you guys said you thought that was going to be the case. Is he an impact player? Is Alan Wynne-Jones an impact player, or will he get back into the starting team with more match time? I'd like to know your thoughts on that. A little bit unsure of the call at 6. I know Lydiot's a strong player, but he's not quite the player he was at 34 years old. I probably would have started Navidi. Tommy Rafael really earned his spot. In the long-term absence of Tipperick, it's worth having a look at Rafael. It's been fantastic for Leicester. But what a debut. What a time to make your debut against New Zealand in New Zealand. Fantastic stuff for him. Faletau, the Rock at 8, classy player. But as a pack, I think they're going to have a tough time, to be honest. 9 is Kieran Hardy. A bit of a surprise. He's a good player for sure, but I still think Thomas Williams is ahead of him for me. But that's fine. Let me know if you think it's the right way round. Bigger at captain. Huge game for him. He'll step up. He'll absolutely love it. Really embrace the physicality. And they've got their first choice centre pairing back, which is good news, although North hasn't played a lot of rugby. So Tompkins and North, it's a good mix. I'm excited to see it, but George North hasn't played a lot. Now Adams, Reece Samet and Liam Williams is probably their quickest, most exciting back 3. So you've got to go for it. They're going to have to score some tries to beat South Africa. So absolutely go for that. Then we've got the bench there, as you see, mentioned a few of them. Gareth Anscombe covering 10, maybe fullback as well. Owen Watkin covering the centres. And again, with George North not having a lot of game time, that's probably a wise move anyway. Now let's look at the South African team, and it's very close again to their 2019 World Cup team. They're very settled. They have made a few changes, but not too many. Some saying it's a bit too safe, but I'm saying it's their best team available. I don't have a problem with it at all. Straight away a change. They start at 15. LaRue is out. Well, he's on the bench anyway. Damian Willemse is in. which is a bit interesting because I think he covers their 10, their fly half as well, which is a bit risky if you're starting your fly half cover. If he gets injured, then you get an injury to Elton Yantes, then it could be a bit of a problem, but he deserves his spot. But maybe they could have done with a 5-3 split on the bench. I don't know. I know Pollard's not available for this game, so maybe that was something to do with it. Anyway, into the centres, Dearlandi and Am. Of course, probably the best centre partnership in recent times in the world. Talking of best back three or wingers, Colby and Mapimpi have just been imperious for the past 4 years or whatever. That's going to be a cracking battle of speed against Adams and Rees-Zammit, etc. I'm glad these two aren't up against the England wingers, who are a little bit slower, that's for sure. Faf de Klerk's there at 9, Elton Yantes at 10. Big game for Elton with Pollard away. He needs to show he can still cut it. Faf de Klerk makes him tick. He'll be a nightmare for Wales for sure. Let's have a look at the pack, starting with number 8. Let's keep going backwards. Jasper Wiese is there at number 8. And he's been phenomenal for Premiership champions Leicester. He'll be nasty, he'll be direct, everything that South Africa likes. Pretty tough on Evan Roos. Many people wanted him to play, even to start. Player of the URC, not even to be in the 23 is pretty tough. But there's a lot of competition. They've got Moster there at 7. Now, that's obviously their blind side. He's a second row, but he's played plenty in the back row. It's a shame Peter Steph du Toit is injured, but he'll do very well. He's done it lots before. Khaleesi, the captain, there at open side. Into the boiler house, if you like. Ludi Jager and Etzebeth are their first choice pairing, so that's great news for them. And then they've got the absolute power of the starting front row. We've got Malherbe there at tight head, Oxenche there at loose head, Bongi and Biambi there at hooker. They're a bit squatter, they're a bit smaller, they tend to start together. Then you bring on the taller guys of Koch there, Marks, Kitsoff. It's a great 1-2 punch. Can Wales stand up to it? I don't know. Elric Lowe's there, covering the back row. They've got a debutant at second row there, which is interesting to see. Quagga Smith we may see in the backs. I've just got a feeling if they get injuries, he may have to go into the backs, because they've got Herschel Yantes, who only plays 9. Willie LaRue, is he going to go into the centres? I don't know. Could Quagga Smith be their replacement centre or even wing? That's a really interesting one. Could they get caught out with their selection and their bench? Let me know if I'm just grasping at straws there for Wales. Now, Argentina versus Scotland. I didn't have the Argentinian team at the time of recording. You can hear the rain coming down. We may get some of that in the Southern Hemisphere at the weekend. But let's start with the forwards. Pierre Schoeman is there at loose head. Not many caps, but he's played really well for Scotland whenever he has played. Turner's their first choice hooker, so that's great news, as is Xander Fagerson, their first choice tight head. Then the captain, Grant Gilchrist, alongside Johnny Gray, and that is a very solid, experienced second row pairing. They're going to need that against the physicality of the Pumas. Talking of physicality, they've put Bradbury in at 6, making a bit more size in that Scottish pack, making it a bit lumpy. I think that's a definite ploy. Crosby is starting at open side, only 1 cap, but he's a really good player, a good showing last week against Chile for sure. But with him, with Darge on the bench, Watson and Ritchie obviously to come back later in the year, that's a lot of very quick flankers they've got, have Scotland. Darge I think was injured recently, maybe he would have started, if not I don't know, but Crosby's a good player. Fagerson their first choice, number 8. Price, vice captain, a lot of experience, he'll be needed, because Kinghorn is really the only remaining senior fly half. You've got Ross Thompson on the bench with only 1 cap, so a lot of pressure on Kinghorn. Bennett partners Johnson a bit of an ever-present in Townsend's team. Back 3, nearly first choice. Darcy Graham and Duan van der Merwe are the first choice. Hutchinson has to fill in at 15, and he's a great player. But if Hugh Jones hadn't been injured, would we see Hutchinson in the team covering the centres or starting in the centres? I don't know. But he's answered the call there to cover in at 15. Then looking at the bench, what strikes you is it's very inexperienced. But that's kind of the idea of this tour, I guess. Sutherland returning from injury. Good to see him back. The very versatile Skinner covering second row and probably blindside as well. Darge will be exciting to come on. The White and Thompson, the inexperienced halfbacks, Tuipulotu can cover a lot in the backs as well. So I don't know how this one is going to go. It's going to be very, very close. There's a lot of pressure on some of these experienced players. Argentina are going to be so fired up. It's going to be great. So anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed that run through of all the teams. Let me know what you think of the selections, what's good, what's not so good, and how these games are going to go. do sign up for that watch long for the Australia-England game. That should be good fun, and I'll be back with all the match reports and normal stuff after the matches. I'm really looking forward to this weekend. It's going to be fantastic. I hope you are too, and I'll catch you next time.